Good evening. It is I, your host, Ms. Dead. Welcome to my manor. We are here tonight to tell the scariest of scary stories. Beware, tonight you may want to sleep with your light on. You may want to sleep in your parents' bed. You may not want to sleep at all, because tonight is the scariest night of scary stories. I believe Coach Dolan from Corrales Elementary is here to tell some scary stories. Let's see if she's here. Coach Dolan, it is not you. Who is this?
Gore, welcome to my lair.
Goodness.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to have a few frights tonight? I want to warn you, my stories are not for young children. They're not for older children. They are quite scary. And they're even scarier if you leave before they're done. Stay for the whole story. Hold on tight. Turn off some lights. And let's get going. My first story is called The Scarecrow, and it's so special to me, living down in Corrales where we have scarecrows everywhere. But you're going to find out quite soon that they can be quite terrifying and even possibly quite evil. I lived as a small child in Kansas, and I lived on a farm in Kansas, way out in the country. Every year, my dad put out scarecrows in our field because he thinks they're effective in not only keeping the crows out, but keeping out evil spirits as well. I guess you could say my dad was a little superstitious. The scarecrows he set out are the same ones year after year. So after much wear and tear, they started to show their age. This October, well, it started out just like any October. The weather was turning cool. The leaves were beginning to change into brilliant orange and yellow colors. One Saturday, us kids got together and decided we were going to make the new scarecrow. Being creative, we gathered our supplies and we got to work. This scarecrow was going to be different. It was my special design. I wanted a creepy scarecrow, much scarier than the others. Hours later, we finished up, and indeed, he was ugly. The most frightening scarecrow I've ever seen, and I was proud. Mom called us in for supper, so we planted the scarecrow out in the middle of the cornfield where I could give him a good view from my bedroom window. Not giving it any more thought, we went in and ate, and soon the wind started picking up, and it began lightning. No storm was forecasted, but it looked like we were in for a really rough night. Light rain began falling as I went up to bed, and I was worried about my scarecrow. So I peeked out my window. What I saw shocked me. He was there all right, but he wasn't where I had placed him. It appeared to me that he was several feet to the right. Puzzled, I stood at the window and I started watching intently and closely. The lightning was bright, and every time it flashed, I could see my scarecrow. The problem was, it looked as if he was moving when the sky was dark, only to turn up in another spot when the sky lit up. Thinking I had to be imagining things, I put on my pajamas and I went to bed. Later on, a crack of thunder woke me up, and by now the rain was pounding down, making it so difficult for me to see out my window. I slipped on my shoes and snuck outside to check on my scarecrow. Not sure where he was, I walked around in the thunderstorm, half blinded by the cold and the stinging rain. Clumsily, I stumbled over a fallen branch and fell face first into a patch of mud. Ah! When I looked up, there was my scarecrow glaring down at me. His tossing and turning the rest of the night, I woke up to bright sunshine and the smell of bacon. Not wanting to tell my parents what had happened, I sat quietly and I ate my breakfast. Anxious, I went outside to look around. My dad was already looking for the damage to the buildings, but I was looking for my scarecrow. I could see the other scarecrows all in their usual places, but my scarecrow, he was nowhere to be found. Full of confusion, I began to cry, not because of losing my scarecrow, but because of pure fear. My father told me he probably blew away and he would be discovered in the field during the harvest, but I knew better. Somehow, some way, my scarecrow came alive. I don't know how. Now years have passed to this day, and I've never seen my scarecrow again. What happened that stormy night? Do scarecrows really keep out evil spirits? Or can they be possessed by one? I don't live on that farm anymore, and I've never ventured outside during a thunderstorm again. But here in Corrales, especially when I leave school on late, dark nights and I'm driving down Corrales Road, I swear that those scarecrows, they don't stand still. They turn and watch me go. So be careful if you have a scarecrow on your property.
Boys and ghouls, what do you think? Do your scarecrows come to life at night? Do they haunt you as you sleep? I wonder if Coach Gore has another tale for us.
I do. Are you ready? Please turn off those lights. Scary stories are much more fun in the dark. This next story is called The Old Television. And I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have a television in my room. And I sure hope you don't either. Because tonight, you might not sleep too well with it in there. A couple lived with their only son in a house on the outskirts of city. The boy's room had an old television which he would ask to be covered with a blanket every night when he went to sleep. One day, the father asked the boy why he wanted the TV covered at night. And the boy said, because that's where they come from. Now the parents, they ignored the comment, thinking it was his imagination. One night, the parents had to go out, so they hired a babysitter to stay with them. And while they were out, they received a phone call from the babysitter. Ah! They took them away! They took him away! Please come home! Please come home! Confused, the parents rushed home. Ah! And when they went to his bedroom, they found he wasn't there. But the blanket that covered the TV was off. And their boy, well, he was gone. I might cover your TVs in your bedroom tonight, folks. You never know what might pop out.
Ooh, TV's always been quite dangerous for young minds. I'm sure Bryson and Colton know the dangers of watching too much TV, but I'm wondering if Kaylani and Max and Thomas are scared as well. Do we have any more tales? Tales that might scare, oh, I don't know, Zion or Tony? Tales that might scare Henry or the Grady family?
Are you ready, friends? Here we go. This next one is called Bedroom Mirror. And I can tell you one thing. I never, ever look in a mirror, especially when it's dark. Bedroom Mirror. A man was awakened by a clap of thunder. Boom, boom, boom! He lay in his bed looking at the shadows cast in his darkened room. He was looking at the mirror on his bedroom wall when suddenly a flash of lightning illuminated his room. The man was terrified. For a split second, he had seen faces staring at him from inside their mirror, their eyes blackened and their mouths hanging open. Unsettled by this strange view, he was unable to sleep for the rest of the night. His mind kept replaying the memory of those disturbingly scary faces staring right at him. The next morning, he removed the mirror from his bedroom and locked it in a storage room. And the next night, he slept like a baby. Days passed, and the memory of these horrible faces, well, they began to fade. One morning, he woke up and he went into the bathroom to take a shower. He got out of the shower and he was drying himself when he happened to look up at the bathroom mirror. Steam from the shower had fogged up the mirror and revealed a message written in the moisture. It read, "Please return the mirrors. We miss watching you sleep." I'm not keeping a mirror in my room, and I suggest if you have one, you cover it up tonight. You never know who's watching.
Goodness. I always leave the light on whenever I need to use the restroom in the evening. I'm wondering if we might need a slight palate cleanser before any more scary stories. Would you like to see some costumes from some of our boys and ghouls? Perhaps we should look at those. There's nothing like little boys and ghouls in costume to make me feel like maybe I might be able to sleep at night. Coach Dolan, do you have any more scary stories for us?
Come back.
She does.
This next one. Well, have you ever woken up and heard your name being called in the middle of the night? I know I have. And sometimes I wonder where it's coming from. Here we go. This is called Calling Her Name. One night, a young girl was lying in her bed, just on the verge of falling asleep, when she heard her mother calling out her name from the kitchen. "Carrie, oh Carrie." She went downstairs to see what her mother wanted, but as she was passing by the pantry under the stairs, the door opened and a hand reached out and dragged her in as she fought it. But she was so confused as she turned to face who it was. It was her mother, hiding inside the pantry. "Don't go into the kitchen," she whispered. "I heard it calling my name too." I don't think we all want to get up for a drink of water tonight. I suggest you just stay put, because you never know what's out there waiting for you. Are we ready for some more? I don't know about you, but my boys love to play. hide and go seek, do you? And one of their favorite places to hide is in the closet. I think you might change your mind about hide and go seek after this. This is called the bedroom closet. One day, while their parents were out, a boy was babysitting his little brother. And they were alone in the house, and they decided to play a game of hide and go seek. The oldest boy, he closed his eyes and he counted to 20, while the little one ran off to hide. When he finished counting, he started looking for his brother, and he couldn't find him anywhere. Come out, Casey. Come out, Casey. Eventually, the older boy, he went to his parents' bedroom, and he noticed that the door of their closet was just barely open. I know you're in there, I shouted as I pulled the door open. The bedroom closet was full of clothes, and when I thrust my hand into it, another hand immediately grabbed me and pulled the older boy inside. Come on, let go! I found you! He cried, trying to pull him out. Come out of there! But the little brother wouldn't come out, no matter how hard the older brother pulled. He was hiding behind all the clothes, and he didn't say a word. The other boy, he wondered what was wrong with his little brother. Just then he heard a voice behind him tap him on the shoulder and say, "What are you doing?" I turned around and was shocked. He saw his little brother standing behind him in the doorway of the room. And looking back, he realized that a pale, white hand was still holding on to his wrist. Ah! He screamed and he began to panic, desperately trying to shake himself off free of the icy grip. The younger brother reached over to try to help him, and eventually they managed to squirm free from the clutches of that pale white hand. They ran screaming from the room and rushed out of the house, standing in the street together, trembling, waiting for their parents to return. And when they finally came home, they told them what had happened, and they went upstairs to search the bedroom closet. And you want to know what they found? Absolutely nothing. Just a bunch of old clothes. Stay out of your closet. You never know what's hiding in there.
Coach Gore, I think we might have time for one or two more. I want to give you a chance to catch your breath. I will be reading a story that was one of my favorites when I was a child, but I think today's youth might be a little too soft to handle the scares in this story. It's called The Green Ribbon. Once there was a girl named Jenny. She was like all the other girls except for one thing. She always wore a green ribbon around her neck. There was a boy named Alfred in her class, and Alfred liked Jenny very much, and Jenny liked Alfred right back. One day he asked her, "Why do you always wear that ribbon all the time?" "I cannot tell you," said Jenny. But Alfred kept asking, "Why do you wear it?" And Jenny would say, "It's not important." Jenny and Alfred grew up and fell in love. One day they got married, and after their wedding, Alfred said, "Now that we're married, you must tell me about the green ribbon." "You still must wait," said Jenny. "I will tell you when the right time comes." Years passed. Alfred and Jenny grew old. One day, Jenny became very sick, and the doctor told her she was dying. Jenny called Alfred to her side. "Alfred," she said, "now I can tell you about the green ribbon. Untie it, and you will see why I could not tell you before." Slowly and carefully, Alfred untied the ribbon, and Jenny's head fell off. Coach Gore, we're ready for more stories from you.
Are you ready, friends? This is your last story with me. And I think it might cause you to have a little trouble sleeping tonight. You might want to get rid of your pillow because you never quite know what's lurking there inside. There was a young girl named Alicia who moved with her parents to a new town. They rented a big old house, and Alicia slept in a downstairs bedroom while her parents slept upstairs. After they had been living there for a few weeks, Alicia's parents noticed that she was growing but quite thin. And as the days went on, she seemed to be getting worse. Then the poor girl came down with a mysterious illness, and she was confined to her bed. The doctor came to examine her, and he told her parents that she was suffering from anemia, and all she needed was some rest, and soon she would be as good as new. However, despite what the doctor said, Alicia's condition grew worse and worse. Her skin was gray, and her cheeks were sunken, and there were dark circles around her eyes. Her parents had no idea what to do. And while Alicia slept in her bed, her mother and her father paced back and forth restlessly, wondering what's going on and what is causing their daughter to be so sick. Day by day, hour by hour, the poor girl grew worse and worse. She was so weak she could barely move. Alicia was fading fast, and life was stretching from her veins. She was deathly pale, and her body was shriveled and withered. And she started to have hallucinations. She started screaming each night, reaching out for things that weren't there. Daily, she got worse, and finally, she grew unconscious and she died. Her parents, they were inconsolable. They held funeral services and buried their beloved daughter in the town cemetery. The day after the funeral, Alicia's mother was stripping the sheets off of her daughter's bed when she noticed something on the pillow. There, she scratched and moved it away. There were 2 red stains on the white material, and when she picked up the pillow, she noticed it was unusually heavy. So she called her husband in to come and take a look at it. As the parents examined the pillow closely, the mother, well, she noticed there was some movement coming from inside. The mother screamed, and the thing began to move faster and faster. The father fetched a knife and split the pillow right open, emptying the feathers out on the floor. The mother screamed as something crawled out from inside the pillow. They watched in horror as out from the pile of feathers, slowly moving its 8 hairy legs, there was a monstrous black spider, so swollen with blood they could barely make out its mouth. And then they realized that night after night, as Alicia laid in bed, this hairy creature had been sucking all the blood from her body and slowly draining her life away. I hope you had fun with me, friends, and sweet dreams tonight.
Goodness, be sure to check your pillows before you fall asleep tonight. I'd hate for any spiders to be sucking your life away. Before we end our final night of scary stories, I'd like to announce our winners in our pumpkin decorating contest. For our small children, the winners were, for Craziest, Sugar Rush by Casey Dolan in first place. Second place was Movie Treat by Ana Lucia Torres, also a 5th grader. In our mixed media category, The Robot Pumpkin by Jeffrey Grady won first prize. I worry that the robot might come to life at night in a full moon. The winner for the carved pumpkins was Ninja by Honesty Jaquez. The best pumpkin with a book was Blueberries for Sale by Gabriel Cias. The scariest pumpkin was Help by Trent Yarbrough. And the most adorable pumpkins were Unicorn by Avery Dean. Second place was a tie for A Cow by Nina Ward and A Cat by Maisie Trujillo. All three of these young ghouls are first graders at Corrales Elementary. The winners in the adult categories: Craziest Mask Up by Corrales, Mask Up Corrales by Edgar Allan, no relation to Edgar Allan Poe. Mixed Media, Cat in the Hat and Thing 1 and Thing 2 by Miss Sandoval's class. The best adult carved pumpkin was Nightmare Before Christmas by Miss Gabby. The best with a book is Grumpy by Miss Josephine. The scariest was the spider from Miss Horcasitas' class. And the most adorable adult pumpkin was the fox by the librarian Miss Melissa. The best class pumpkin was Where the Wild Things Are by Ms. Mann's class. Best overall, 2020 has been a nightmare before Christmas by Missy Johnson for Mrs. Carper's class. I would like to acknowledge all the young boys and ghouls who donated pumpkins to our school to auction off. Thank you to Jeffrey Grace and Mary Grady, Gabriel Cias, Ana Lucia Torres, Maisie Trujillo, Trent Yarbrough, Miller Finlayson, Casey Dolan, Eloise Trujillo, Dahlia Chavez, Alexandra Gonzalez, Gianna Cuoco, Honesty Jaquez, Samantha Tafoya, Tommy Gentry, Athena Gentry, John V, Lila Nina Ward, Avery Dean, Kaylee Senna, Ondine Fair, Ellie Fair, Rose and Ruby Black, Jacob Sanchez, and Vivian and Giada Laughlin. Thank you so much for donating pumpkins to support our school. We made over $1,000 for our PTA, which means we can bring you more stories like Storyworks magazines and stories from Reading A to Z. And it was sure fun to get to see some of our traditions get to continue, even though our school building is closed. Coach Dolan, do you have anything to add before we bid adieu to our boys and ghouls?
Sweet dreams, everyone. I hope you sleep tightly and alone. Don't bother your parents tonight.
Tonight was our last night of Scary Stories. We'll see you tomorrow on Google Meet. Good night.